I'm super excited about this particular podcast, as I am most of them these days, and anything that deals with human emotion, anything that deals with spirituality, anything that deals with like the intangible, I'm all about nowadays for some reason. So when we have the opportunity to do a podcast like this, I'm always very excited. I am so happy to be joined today by the sensational Sam and the effervescent, we said it was, Ell.
Thanks, I think. I'm not entirely sure what it means, but thank you.
It's like fizzy and bubbling with energy, which is a perfect reflection of who you are as a person.
Like sparkling water.
Kind of, yeah.
And your magic Misbah?
Magic Misbah, I like that. I do like that. I do have a few magic tricks. I'm not performing them though.
You did a magic trick on a webinar once. That was cool.
I did. Yeah, I did like a card trick. Yeah. But I don't know. I think I find doing magic kind of creepy. It's weird to be like prepared and have props on you to do magic.
Like just to dove up your arm.
Yeah. Just in case.
You never know.
Yeah. So this podcast is obviously following a series which we didn't have the name for the last time we did this, but we realized that it's going to be the things that make us human, because as a business and as a community and as a team, we really love the fact that we are human and we embrace the things that make us human. And I think that echoes throughout all of our community. So this series of podcasts is going to be about that, you know, and they're subjects which I love because they're really fluffy, but you get to talk a lot about different things and different subjects. So today we're going to be speaking about music and the power of music and what it means to us. And I wanted this podcast to not necessarily be about like what are our favorite songs and what kind of music gets us hyped and what motivates us and stuff. I wanted to go really deep, like a deep cut into what music means to us spiritually as humans, and can it potentially heal us when we're feeling down? You know, can it change our mood and our behavior? Can it be used to impact change on the way that we like perceive whatever's going on around us at any given time? I think it can. It's not going to be a debate, but more an exploration. And I know that like the reason why I wanted you guys to appear on this podcast is because we have like a club. We've got like a Wakelet music club. Whose idea was that?
I feel like it was Sam's, you know.
I don't remember. I don't even know now.
I don't know. We'll all take... Well, it wasn't me. I'm not going to say well all. You two can take collective credit for it. But it was an amazing idea where, you know, we would give each other like albums to review, and then we'd create a Wakelet collection, collaborate on it, and then kind of speak our thoughts on what we thought about each song, and kind of it was really good.
It was fun.
Yeah,
it was really fun, and like we all discovered some really interesting new music, which I'm going to touch on shortly. But what I wanted to do was take it like way back, okay, and talk a little bit about like what your earliest experiences with music were, because during your formative years, like the media that you listen to and the things that happen to you tend to make you who you are like today, especially things that happen in childhood, whether they're good or bad. But I think that music is probably one of those. So I'm going to start with you, Ell. What's like your earliest musical memory, like where you felt profoundly moved by like a piece of music?
That's such a hard question.
It's difficult. I know
It's so difficult.
I know.
I don't know. I spoke about this with Sean on one of the previous episodes of the first, and we've spoken about it in however many collections, but the first ever like album I was given was literally like S Club 7.
Oh.
But in terms of like...
For the folks at home who are in the US who may not know about S Club 7, could you like sum it up in one sentence?
They were what, like kind of somewhat like bubblegum pop, but like 90s,
cheesy,
really cheesy tunes. Just a group of 7 people vibing. No, they were really cool, and I think they were huge, especially in the UK. That was weird, but that was definitely my favourite first album that I was given. And I think their music is still all right now, to be honest. It's very nostalgic when you listen back. But yeah, I think that was the first ever album. But in terms of like music that like really moved me and being aware of that for the first time, I think maybe I was like 6 or something, and I went to the theatre with my mum, and I don't know what it was that we saw, but I just remember whatever the music was and kind of the environment, I was so like, oh my God, you know, and you have that moment of like, I wish that could be me, or what do then people feel like up there where they've got so many people just staring in awe at them. Just that feeling, I think, of
like the grandness of it, like on a scale, like it's not, it's music that's being like projected.
Out, and everyone's listening to it at the exact same time. in the exact same environment. And I don't know, it just really, really touched me. Like what that music was, I don't know, but you've obviously got all of like the orchestra that sit at the front of the stage as well, and you can kind of see down, and it just really, really touched me. I was probably, like I said, 6 or 7, and it was lovely. Yeah.
So so it's a mixture between S Club 7
and that
and the
that
theatre,
really deep movie. Yeah.
So when the S Club 7 like orchestral tour comes out,
I'm
exactly.
there. I am there.
Yeah,
Slow it
the
down,
classical remix. Yeah,
I'd love that.
What about you, Sam?
I can actually remember the exact moment that I felt first moved by music, and it was every year we used to go camping as a family. We'd be driving down to Wales, and it'd be sunny, and it'd be just the vibes would be so nice in the car, and there was the same song that played like every year, and it was Wanderlust by The Delays.
Okay.
And they were just like an alternative rock band in like the early noughties, but I don't really know what else they did because they don't really do much now. But for me, when I hear that song, that just instantly transports me. I can almost like taste the sea and everything. It's amazing. Yeah.
Well, we're going to be touching on that, the idea of like nostalgia and what kind of memories music evokes, and you know the feelings that gives us both physically and emotionally. But for me, like when I think about music, there's like 2 moments in my childhood that stand out where I felt deeply moved by music. The first one was when we were watching Oliver the musical, and I must have been maybe 5 years old or something like that, or even younger. And there's that scene where Oliver gets locked up in like the little cellar bit, and then he starts singing that song, Where Is Love? It's like, where is love? And we were all watching it as like a family, and then I just started to feel all hot and prickly, and then I realized like I'm about to cry and I can't control it. Like there's something about the music and the lyrics that are touching me, and I'm about to, it's going to be really embarrassing in front of everybody. So I remember sort of like burying my head like into like my shoulder and just trying to like stop anybody noticing that I was crying.
It's interesting that you felt like you couldn't openly cry at the music.
It is interesting, yeah. But I think like I immediately just felt embarrassment that like some like little boy singing in a movie has brought me to tears for some reason. Yeah. And then the second thing, which wasn't so much like a sad memory, but really made me feel that bear in mind, this was like before the internet, before Shazam, before whatever. You couldn't just hold up your phone and like, you know, it'll tell you what music is playing, which is absolute wizardry, by the way.
Yeah,
everybody needs the Shazam app in their life. But this was in 1997, I believe, and it was in my childhood home, and we lived in Old Trafford, and just not that far from us, just in the distance, was the cricket ground, and there used to be concerts there all the time. And I remember it was the summertime, and it was quite late in the evening, and I could hear a concert happening, and I had no idea who it was or what it was, but I started to hear this like these violins in the distance, and it was like da, 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 and I could hear it,
wow.
and I remember just lying there on the grass and just like trying to savor every single note that I could hear, and I didn't know who it was. I couldn't, you know, I didn't know like which band it was or whatever. I found out that it's Bittersweet Symphony by The Verve. So that moment, that feeling of that like fleeting, this music is going to end in a second and I'm never going to hear it again. So let me just like soak in the moment, and with it being in the background and with it being like a hot summer's day.
Theme song.
Yeah, it was a really, really beautiful moment. That's something which like profoundly impacted me on like the power of music and stuff. But it's really interesting like what kind of experiences that you have in childhood can like make you feel later on emotionally, you know? Okay, so this kind of moves on to something else which I want to speak about, and I discussed this like concept with you guys earlier on in the week, and it's this idea of music being like an anchor, right? So it's like if you're setting sail on this voyage of life, every so often you'll just drop an anchor, and like that will kind of be like a flag in the sand, if you will, like this is a really important part of my life, and there's a piece of music or a smell or a taste or something that will always take me back there, you know? And I wanted to ask you guys, like, how do you feel about that? Like, do you feel like that you've established anchor points based on music in your life?
Yeah, I just have to say, sorry, Sam.
Yeah, go.
Misbah, you are so poetic. That was so just beautiful.
Annoyingly
I was just
so.
lost then in what you were saying, because it was just so lovely. But
it was beautiful.
Thank you.
No, I was just going to say, yeah, I do find that I have anchor points of music in my life. I go through, I don't know if my listening habits are strange, but I will listen to something on repeat until I'm sick of it.
Yes, over and over again.
Over and over again. And that always like kind of reaffirms the song as like that time for me.
Yeah. No, I'm the same. Like when I find a piece of music that I really love, I'll kill it. I'll kill it to death. It will be on loop literally for hours and hours, like on the car, on my laptop when I'm working. And then what ends up happening is like the first thing that I think of when I wake up in the morning is the melody or the lyrics of that song, and then it becomes quite annoying because you can't get it out of your head.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd say that like I'm gonna try not to do that as much because it does kill the song, at least short term.
Yeah. But it's also really nice when you do stop listening to it for a bit and then you come back to it like a month or so later and you're like, oh my God, this is incredible. And you're kind of back in that loop of I have to constantly play it.
Yeah, exactly.
Some artists, some music is just like that.
And
it can incredible.
It can even be like pop songs. Like if you go and like type in on YouTube like the top 10 hits of like 2010 or something, you're transported to that time. You start to feel things and emotions that you felt during that time, and all the things that you may have forgotten about, they come back to you and you start thinking about them. And we're going to talk about nostalgia like in a little bit because I find it a really, really interesting subject. But it's not just music that can be anchor points. Like to me, it's also fragrance. Like I'm a big fragrance lover, and you know, if you're wearing a particular fragrance like on holiday or during a particular time in your life, like everyone remembers the first fragrance that they purchased and started to use. So what I've started doing is that whenever I'm about to like go on holiday, I'll always buy something new, like a new fragrance to wear. And now, like when I look at my fragrance collection, whenever I spray something on my wrist and I smell it, those moments of that holiday or of that time will just flood back. So it used to be like by accident, but now I've made it so that it's actually on purpose, where it's like, I really want to remember this holiday and this time. So I'm not going to use a fragrance that I've used in the past. I'm going to use this. And the same thing can be applied to like albums and stuff as well. It has an amazing like nostalgic power, music and smells and things.
When I think of like my nan, for example, I think she's got like this smell, it's like Chanel No. 5. When I smell it, it's just like, oh, that takes me back. But it's in there with like the music that she listens to, like
exactly.
I think Enya.
Yeah.
Enya and Chanel No. 5.
Yeah, you're right, because you start to connect little things with each other, like and the things which aren't tangible. Like music isn't tangible. Like a fragrance isn't really tangible. It's not like food's a little bit different. I think I don't get nostalgic over food, to be honest with you. The idea of it maybe, but it's usually those intangible things that hit you the hardest when you recall them in your memory.
And they also have the power to unlock things you didn't even realize that you had. There's been a few times recently where I've just happened to hear a song and I'm taken back to like 2014 or something in, I don't know, like my back garden, and I just didn't even realize I had that memory. Yeah. And it was just, it's just crazy. The power.
It's funny. I'm going to talk in a little bit about how, like with dementia patients and Alzheimer patients, how like music is one of the only things really that is like helps, you know, dementia and Alzheimer patients, kind of that memory recall part of their brain doesn't seem to be affected by the disease. So if they hear music that, you know, from a long time ago, if it's like old ballroom music or like hits from like the 50s, 60s, whatever, it tends to evoke a response in them more so than any kind of conversation could, which I find really interesting. And I think that's kind of demonstrates the power that music has. If something as debilitating as like Alzheimer's or dementia can't even affect that part of the brain, you know what I mean? Another thing which I wanted to speak about was like the idea of like music being an antidote or an enhancement. So like an antidote to a bad mood or when you're feeling low, or like a way to enhance a good mood or when you're feeling really positive. So we're just talking about this literally before we jumped on. But for me, when I'm feeling a little bit low and down, I tend to gravitate more towards sad music. Not depressing music, but like sad music, you know, music which is a little bit more like in the minor keys, a little bit, you know, not as energetic perhaps, and more thoughtful and reflective. And that helps me because when I'm in when I'm feeling down, I don't want to hear Walking on Sunshine. You know what I mean? Like that's going to send me under even more. So I tend to gravitate to darker music, let's say. And then when I am feeling happy, I love to blast happy music in the car. What about you guys?
I'm the complete opposite.
That's crazy.
Yeah. If I feel a bit down and I listen to sad songs, like if they're a little bit on the neutral side, that's okay. We can get away with that. But if I put on like some Lana Del Rey and I'm not feeling good, it'll send me like spiraling. I need to like analyze how I'm feeling, and often I do like a little bit of a musical path almost out of it. So I'll start a bit slow, a bit neutral, and then I'll slowly build it up. Like each song will be a little bit happier, a little bit more dancier, and by the end of it I've usually changed my mood.
That's crazy. So it's like a musical therapy type thing, like you know what to do, you know how music can help you get out of a bad mood.
Because you know, I've spent my time listening to sad music when I've been sad and it's not worked. So different method.
What about you?
I think I'm similar to you, Misbah, in that if I'm feeling sad, I feel like I have to acknowledge that, and then I would put sad music on. Yeah. And I feel like you touched on it before when we were talking about it, but the idea of understanding that you're not alone and that someone else has felt that sadness or has also been through a bad time or has also just not been happy 24/7. And I think that's nice. I think there's some kind of comfort in that you're not on your own and your feelings are valid and you're allowed to feel upset. Because I think opposite to Sam, would naturally be able to listen to sad music, acknowledge that I'm sad or upset, whatever it is, and then naturally come out of that. I don't feel like I would have to try and force myself to be happy, because I think if I was putting loads of happy songs on, it might ruin that song for me a little bit, or I might associate it with like a sad or negative experience. But I'm definitely one of them that just needs to sit in sadness and let it wash over me until it's just happy to go.
And it's funny, like I've just had this thought now where if you're not in a very good mood and you're feeling a little bit low, the last thing you need really is somebody being like, oh, cheer up, everything's fine, everything's happy. You more want somebody to be like, I understand how you're feeling, I understand what you're going through. So maybe that's how like we feel about it, like that the music that we're listening to is like a therapist, like it's like holding up a mirror, and you know, you like you said, it's immediately relatable. You're matching your mood, you're embracing the mood that you're in and saying, why don't I complement this with a little bit of you know, similar vibes from the music.
But what I think is really nice as well is when I have been upset or sad or just feeling low, I have a playlist on Spotify that I'll just add songs to that are kind of a bit sad, and I'll listen to that when I feel down. But what I like is that I look back and think, oh, why was I sad? And I can't actually remember. And I just think that's really nice that I can't ever remember why I was sad or down. I just know that music was there for me. Whereas with like a happier song, I can relate it to a really happy experience or to a happy memory, and I can actually remember that. I don't know, I just thought that was like really nice. We
were talking about this, the difference between like songs that we find depressing and songs that we find like sad. There's a difference, right? Like you can find a happy song really depressing. Like there's loads of like happy pop songs that depress the hell out of me. Like just because, not necessarily because of like the actual music, but just whether I heard it at a particular point in my life or I'm dismissing it. You know, it's that kind of thing, I think. Sam, do you think that like music has the power to heal? Like, I don't mean this in like a weird Zen spiritual kind of way, like heal, you know. I kind of mean it in the sense like if I suppose I've already covered this, but I want to kind of look at it in a different perspective. Like, do you feel like if you're feeling depression or anxiety or sadness or whatever, do you think that maybe one of the first things that you reach to is music?
100%. Yeah. An example is a couple of weeks ago, Elle and I were driving to get food somewhere, and I was literally I don't know what was up with me. I just wasn't feeling myself. I felt a little bit like empty.
One of those days.
And I was just, I was just a bit like, oh. And it was also like miserable weather outside.
Awful weather, really horrible.
And I was in the car and we were just saying, like, oh, what should we put on and stuff? And I was like, I need to listen to Alejandro by Lady Gaga. And we blasted that so loud and we were singing along, and literally after the song was done, 3 minutes, I was fine. And I was in such a different mood.
Yeah, no, I get that. Alejandro by Lady Gaga is a very powerful song. I mean that. Like, it's an amazing song. That I know it's like pure pop, but Lady Gaga is like an exception to that. Like her music is really, really good. What about you, Al? Like, is music kind of the thing that you reach for first? Like if you had a medicine cabinet full of different things to help you get out of a particular mood, would it be music? Would it be a movie? Would it be like some comfort food? Would it be seeing friends? Would it be calling family? Like where would music fit into that?
I think music would be one of the first, or if not the first thing that I would go to, definitely. Because like there is always a song to fit your mood. There's always a song to make you feel better. And I think we all have, like you were saying with Anchor kind of albums and songs, I think we all have like comfort albums and songs that you know you can listen to, that you're going to enjoy, that you're going to like, and that is going to get you through it. And you kind of know what to expect, so you don't have to think, am I going to like this, or is it going to make me worse, because you know exactly what's going to happen. But yeah, I think music is definitely healing in that sense. It's just there whenever you need it. I think we're very lucky to live in a world where we can just put some music on, and it is accessible. And yeah, I think maybe following that, it would be like a movie or a TV series, again, that you kind of know what's going to happen. You can trust it. It's not going to hurt you even more.
It's familiar.
But yeah, it's familiar, and it's that kind of nice warm blanket that just covers you and says it's going to be okay. Yeah, music is definitely up there as number one. Because I think as well, a lot of the time you listen to music on your own, especially when you do feel down, and you do sometimes need to just be on your own completely. But then it is nice when you can maybe think, okay, I need to bring someone in, I need a friend, I need a family member to help me get over whatever it is that I'm feeling, and you can then listen to that music together. And again, it kind of gives it, maybe see it from a whole new perspective and everything.
It's a really interesting kind of dynamic, listening to music with people.
It is.
Like whenever I have people over for like some food or some drinks, if they're just coming over, we just immediately choose some music and then sit, and that is just, it kind of like guides you through your evening.
Really sets the tone.
It sets the tone, and if you're in a different way, like if you're in a couple, if you're in a relationship, you pick up songs together and gather songs, and then I personally, for me, I feel like it's quite important when it's ended, if it ends. Oh my god, such a pessimist.
I know, I was going to say, that's a really positive outlook.
To like kind of like reclaim some of those songs. Because, you know, music is very personal, and if you do share it with someone, you can't throw it all into like I can't listen to this ever again bin.
Definitely.
And I think the same thing can apply to like places and fragrances and stuff. There's that old idea of like, you know, kind of when you're in like the airport, just kind of rushing off into the perfume store and just like, you know, kind of like sneakily going to that fragrance that you used to know so many times. Like, you know, like you said, there is an empowering thing in just embracing that and just being like, no, this is part of my history. I'm going to keep listening to it, or keep going to those places or whatever. One of the things which I wanted to touch on again next is this idea of the like exploring and discovering music, because I actually think that even though we're in a much more connected world when it comes to music consumption, and we're on so many different streaming platforms, it's actually quite difficult to discover and explore new music. You tend to get it recommended by friends, or it's a new release that has a lot of really good promotion, or you hear it in a film or whatever it might be. And in the past, it wasn't like that. Like when I speak to my mother about her experiences with music growing up, it's completely different. You know, she'd go into the record store and she'd look at album artwork, and just based on the album artwork decide whether or not she'd want to buy it, you know, which I think is a really beautiful way of discovering music, because a lot of the time she didn't know the artist, she didn't know, you know, what the genre was even, but just based on the album artwork, like, okay, I'm going to give this a try. So what I wanted to ask you guys was like, how do you discover new music, and do you feel the need to force yourself to find and discover new music?
I think it's important to find new music all the time,
and like to make an effort to, right? Not just
to actively seek it out, because for me, I find most of mine from like TV and film. So Shazam, best friend.
Amazing.
I love it.
What was the first song you Shazammed, if you can remember?
Oh, I think it was Pumped Up Kicks by Foster the People.
Really?
It was actually enough, that's one of my favourite songs ever. And it was on an advert for O2, the phone network in the UK. And I loved it. It literally just came out, the song, and it was 2011, I think. And I Shazammed it, and I was like,
it's like
oh
magic.
My gosh, it's here. And also, funnily enough, a little bit like the record store, I love that song. I listened to it like 5 times because I bought it on iTunes. And without previewing the album or anything, I just bought the album. And then that album became like really, really core to my kind of like early teens.
It's crazy. The first song that I Shazammed was by The Weeknd. I actually downloaded the app. I was in a cafe. This is back in 2011. when The Weeknd first came out, he had like his first mixtape, and the music, I remember it was in a cafe and I could hear it, and I was like, these vocals and this vibe is nothing like I've ever heard before musically. So I remember downloading Shazam and then being like, oh my God. And I remember seeing how many times it had been Shazammed, and it wasn't that many. So like, yeah, I discovered The Weeknd.
And Shazam.
And Shazam, yeah. What about you? I'm gonna come back to what I was about to ask you, but what about you? Do you remember the first song you Shazammed?
I don't think I remember it, but I think it was probably something like really cheesy pop that was on the radio all the time.
Something feel good.
Probably like The Script or something.
Yeah.
But I remember the feeling of just being completely taken aback by like, oh my God, yes, this is the song.
Yeah.
And how does it do this? And just it being like new technology, I guess, of being able to identify any music and just knowing, and then having that knowledge of, I never have to forget this.
Yeah, we really are living in like the best time ever when you think about it.
Yeah.
Back to what we were just saying before. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but about like the actively going and discovering new music.
So I think a lot of my music, it's been kind of like going backwards in time. I've been like actively discovering old stuff. Because a lot of it isn't in the spotlight. You know, you can find some real hidden gems through samples as well.
Oh big time.
Now it's like, oh, that's a really interesting sound. It's actually sampled from maybe like a Diana Ross and the Supreme song. I'll go and listen to that, and you actually like that song as well. So it's nice to find music like that. But if you don't actively seek out more music, whether it's new or old, and also different genres, you kind of get stuck in a rut. And like we were saying, how it like music accompanies you through different parts of your life and different journeys you go on. Why would you wear the same aftershave to every trip?
Exactly.
Like you need to find new fragrances, you need to find new music to accompany you.
Yeah, and as you're growing as a person, you need music to kind of accompany that, and sometimes music can even help you grow as a person
100%,
and give you new perspectives and new ways of thinking, or thinking of experiences that you haven't experienced yet. I think the discovery of music is really important. I remember very early web on social networks. You'd go onto someone's profile and they'd have their favorite music playing. That's quite a cool way of discovering new music. From people maybe like not indirectly saying, what's your favorite song at the moment? I actually remember I discovered a band called The Cab that way, and I absolutely loved their music. So whoever had that on their page way back when, thank you so much.
Shout out to random MySpace friend.
I think discovery is sort of made easy with Spotify with their Discover Weekly. I listen to that every single week, like all of the songs that I like, and add it to my library, and then listen to them on repeat, completely rinse them.
Spotify's really good for that. It's better than Apple Music for that, for sure. Like,
sorry Sam.
I know Apple Music has like a clean interface and whatever, but Spotify is great. When it comes to its recommendation engine, it's pretty good.
I miss Spotify for that. I used to discover so much more music than I do now. But now I think, like I say, a lot of my music discovery comes from Shazam. So.
Of course. And I also like on Spotify they have like song radio, so you can see similar songs to what you're listening to. That's also great. It's
very good.
Like Sam said, TV and films, some of the soundtracks or scores on some films are just incredible. I think I discovered John Mayer because of CSI.
Really?
His song "Waiting on the World to Change."
Amazing.
That was in, and I fell in love with that and fell in love with the rest of his albums. I thought that was great. And also when artists that you like recommend other artists or songs, or like hype up their friends, and then you realise, actually I really like this. But music discovery is so important, and I wish there was an easier way of doing that. Saying that, I actually remember there is a website that you can put in 2 of your favourite artists, and it kind of tracks loads of songs that kind of connect the 2, and you can discover loads of new artists or new music along the way. Which is really, really cool. So I'll drop the link to that in the collection for
awesome.
this podcast.
I think when it comes to music discovery, like there's, like you said, I really liked what you're talking about with genres, because I think that anybody that only listens to one particular genre of music, I think is really limiting their ability to feel certain emotions. And I remember there was a moment where I think I was on like pitchfork.com, or one of the music review websites. This was a while back now, back in like 2013 or something. And I it has like a little tag for the genre, and every time it said like there were really highly rated albums on there that were like experimental or metal or, you know, rock or whatever, and they were highly reviewed, but I was just ignoring them because I'm interested in R&B and hip hop and rap and that kind of thing. But then I was like, you know what, why am I doing this? Like, if somebody thinks this music is really good, then it's probably good regardless of the genre. And I remember I listened to this album called Sunbather by this metal band called Death Heaven. And when I listened to it, but just hear me out for a second. So like when I first listened to it, it was like extremely like a shock to my system because it's like extremely fast drums, roaring vocals. You can't make sense of what the person's saying. Really beautiful melodic guitars in the background, like creating this incredible wall of sound. There's just no room to breathe in it. And the more that you listen to it, the more you realize I actually understand what's happening right now. This is really, really good music for a particular way that I might be feeling, and I get why people love this genre. And at that moment, I realized that I really have to be much more open to lots and lots of different genres. And through that, I've discovered, you know, music which I wouldn't usually listen to, like indie and folk and rock and that kind of thing. But I'd suggest that a lot of people like should look at like metal. I know that it's a very abrasive sound to some people, but with particular bands, specific like melodic metal, it's extremely beautiful and it channels a really specific energy that you have as a human. For me, it's this like aggressiveness, but almost like not a beautiful aggression, if that makes sense, not like a destructive aggression. And I'd suggest that everyone, well, like I said, we'll drop the links, and it's gonna, although a lot of the music that we're sharing today is very peaceful, that might be a little bit of a shock to people, but definitely take a look at it. I wanted to go back a little bit and talk about nostalgia. I think this is a really good point to remind everybody who's watching this on YouTube. Please leave a comment, and I'd love you all to share a song and share what time it takes you back to, and just one sentence, you know, like the place, the time, how it makes you feel. So nostalgia is a really, really interesting thing. It's a really interesting phenomena. And back in the day, I think it was during like this war in Europe, like the 1600s or something. I might be completely off, I don't know. But they found that a lot of soldiers in it's like a foreign legion, a lot of soldiers were just not, you know, there's a fly, it's joined us. That's guest number 3. A lot of soldiers during the battles and during the wars would get very, very homesick, and they'd be physically ill. Like they wouldn't be able to move, they'd feel terrible, and they couldn't fight. And the doctor discovered that the area that they were positioned in, there was a very particular flower that would grow there that reminded them of home, and that made them, you know, physically unable to fight. So it's a really deep thing. And the word nostalgia, it comes from the Greek, I think it's like nostra or nossa or something, which means home, and then algia, which is pain. So like, you know, if you like fibromyalgia and all this stuff, like algia means pain. So it's a really interesting word, the root of it, because it's like home pain. And you do feel that. And nostalgia is an interesting thing, because even though we want to pursue it and we want to feel that thing, it's never a positive feeling. It's always this aching, this longing for like a time. And a lot of people try and combat that by like visiting their old school or the place where they grew up, or listening to an old piece of music, for example. But that's never going to scratch that itch that nostalgia gives you, because it's impossible to go back in time. You know, it's the time and the place and who you were as a person back then that makes that so profound. So I know that was going a little bit deep, but I wanted to, and also it's not just music, right? It's like, for me, there's a few things that make me nostalgic. Fragrance, 100%. If I smell a fragrance from years and years ago, I'm right back there. Music, obviously, but also weather. Like if I'm walking or if I'm in the car or something, and there's just a very specific combination of weather that can trigger like a deep nostalgia moment for me. But I wanted to like ask you guys, like, how do you feel about nostalgia, and what kind of things do make you nostalgic?
Gosh, all sorts. You know, I'm not really one to like kind of feel nostalgic about foods. I think one of us mentioned that earlier before we came on. But I do have a few things that, like food-wise, that do just send me into like a place of like remembering stuff, like proper like homemade chips in a newspaper, Like that is the way that smells and tastes. It just reminds me of being like 5 years old in my nan and granddad's house.
For all our American listeners, we don't mean chips like Dorito.
Yeah.
We mean French fries, like thick cut chips. Yeah, English chips.
And it's things like that really, it makes you feel warm and nice. I mean, obviously there's like bad nostalgia, and try and avoid that as much as possible. It kind of paralyzes you a little bit, isn't it? When you hear a song, you get like that flood. I don't know if it does anybody else, but you get that flood, and it kind of just feels, you feel a bit grim. You feel like you're longing for a time because you think that time was better, but it never is. It's just it makes me feel like physically sick when I hear a song that's got like a bit of like painful nostalgia attached to it. Like it makes my stomach turn, and I'm like, oh god, I need to turn that off. It's like really like a physical reaction to the music.
I don't get that. It's very mental, but that's crazy that you have a physical reaction to it. Yeah.
But also like I have like loads of physical reactions to music. Like when I hear something that's like really like nice, like all like the hairs on my arms.
I'm gonna talk about that. Yeah.
Like,
I'm gonna speak about that in a moment.
It's just weird. Music can make your body actually like react in certain ways. It's so good.
Incredible.
What about you, Al?
I think I'm much like you with fragrances and smells. Sometimes you will just be like walking down the street and you'll smell something and you'll just be taken back to somewhere else. I don't know. I think that's probably one of the strongest for me alongside music. I'm sure there are plenty of others, but they're the two that really do stand out. But yeah, you're right. It just sometimes that physical response to something that you can't even see or touch, it's just incredible that your body can react like that.
It's so odd. Music can make you feel nostalgic for things that you've never even experienced before. You know what I mean? Like you can be nostalgic for times that you've never had. Like you can listen to some old ballroom music, for example, and for some reason you can feel what it must have been like back then when that music was popular. For me, there's like a song from this movie which incidentally is all about memory. It's called Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. It's got Jim Carrey in it and Kate Winslet. It's a really, really beautiful film, and it's about this man who has a whirlwind romance and a relationship with this woman, and there's they break up and it's very painful, the memories. So he goes to this company that can find those memories in your brain and erase them so that you no longer feel that pain. And then the film kind of shifts into his perspective in his own brain, and he's trying to like capture these memories because the procedure's already happening, and he's trying to capture these memories as they're being erased because he doesn't want it to happen anymore. He realizes that those memories of those relationships are super important to him, and he kind of wants to feel that pain. And there's a piece of music called I think it's called Phone Call by the composer John Bryan, and it's so beautiful. Like it's one of those songs that I don't feel like it takes me back to a particular place, but it has that fuzzy, warm nostalgia about it that's really, really beautiful and profound. It doesn't make me even think about the movie. So yeah, nostalgia is it's a powerful thing.
Powerful.
But also kind of scary and a little bit sad as well. You know what I mean? Okay, so the next thing which I wanted to speak about was exactly what you were just talking about, right? Which is this what you're describing there is this thing called frisson or frisson. I think it's frisson actually, and that's the feeling that when you're listening to music or you have like external stimuli affecting your like central nervous system, your hair stands on end and you get like a shiver, you know, like you get goosebumps essentially. And I it's amazing to me that music can do that. And I was really interested before this podcast to figure out like why that happens, because to me, that's the sign that you've stumbled upon a piece of music which is really beautiful and that you're going to keep coming back to, is when I feel the hairs on my neck and my
anchor.
Yeah, you found an anchor, exactly. You've dropped it into the ocean and you're going to come back to it. Yeah. And it's funny because like that, apparently you can look at it in a spiritual way and like a metaphysical way. I just think that it's your body's response to something beautiful. But scientifically, it's supposed to be your body's response to something unexpected. So when a piece of music takes an unexpected turn or makes you feel a certain way out of the blue, that's what gives you that feeling. But I'd love for you, Sam, to talk a little bit more about like how you feel when music makes you feel like that.
It makes me feel really, I don't know, it happens a lot to me, I'm not gonna lie. Whenever I hear like a new piece of music, which I quite enjoy, it doesn't have to be like groundbreaking for me to get that reaction to it. It just happens. And it it's a really, really nice feeling. Like, for me, music is very healing. And when I'm feeling, like I said, I can use music to kind of change my mood. And for me, putting on some music and going on a walk at the same time, just on my own, like headphones in, it just makes me feel so like much better about everything.
So it makes you feel like at peace.
It's like meditation for me. It's better than just sitting there. I process things while I'm walking, listening to music. And when I listen to new music on those walks, that is when I will get like goosebumps, and I'll listen to it and I'll just kind of like, I want to stop walking because it's such an amazing feeling.
It stops you in your tracks.
Yeah. It's just so good. And you come across music like that, and it comes from like trying different genres and stuff like that. Yeah. I would never get those reactions if I would just listen to like pop.
Yeah, and the radio
all the time. Yeah.
True.
What about you, Al?
I think lyrics have the power to do that as well. I mean, I know it's of course paired with music, but just sometimes lyrics make you just realise it is just capturing a feeling, and that you didn't even realise you had. I don't know how to explain it. There was a lyric I heard recently on a new album that was released that says "Rolling Like the Wind," and that even now sends yes, I do remember.
What's the song?
It's "Somewhere" by Lainey.
Somewhere by
Lainey. It was on their recent album that they released about a week ago. But yeah, when I heard that, even now talking about it, the hairs on the back of my neck. And just a shiver down my spine.
So it wasn't so much the melody or the composition, it was the lyrics in this case.
The whole song, to be completely honest with you. I was listening to the album when it first came out, and I had to I think I was like washing up or something, and I had to just sit down and really listen to this song, because it just spoke to me in a way that none of the other songs on the album did. And as much as I love the other songs on the album, but this one just really stands out to me. I think it's kind of about understanding, or like learning how to be your own person and to live without needing to rely on other people. And I think that sort of in itself is really nice, and it's something that I could relate to. But just that "Rolling Like the Wind," it just, even now I can't explain the feeling that gives me.
Because it evokes a feeling. You can attribute lots of different imagery to it and apply it to yourself, I suppose. Yeah. It's interesting that we've not discussed lyrics too much. I mean, if we did, we'll maybe save that for like another podcast to follow on. But yeah, like the lyrics can do that to me. It's not as often as like a symphony or like the melody, or when you hear all of the instruments come together. Yeah. But obviously the lyrics and the voices and the human voice as an instrument is beautiful. And I think that a lot of the music which we've chosen to share today, which we're moving on to now, I don't think it has many lyrics. At least mine and yours don't. Yeah. I'm not sure about yours, Sam.
Mine have a few. But no, funnily enough, I think my favourite music that I usually get reactions from are either instrumental or just like really simple, like with like gospel in the background. And I think there's something really powerful to people coming together, singing like in a religious setting. You know, I went to church when I was a kid, and we always used to do choir. It was always really powerful to like stand.
Gospel
and
music
sing
is
with
super
everyone.
powerful.
It's incredible.
And I
so
think
underrated as well.
Big time.
It's really nice. I'll share an album as well at the end, which is like a gospel.
I love that. I think that it's a really like, it's powerful, and when there's lots of different voices singing at once, you can feel that energy come through in the music. And I'm sure, like, I know that when you look at like Kanye West, his Sunday service stuff that he did, like it's amazing, because he's singing quite, I wouldn't say modern songs, they are gospel, and they're all about Christianity and religion and faith, but the way that they're composed and put together, it's really beautiful. And I think that if it wasn't for a popular artist like that, I don't think many people would consider listening to gospel. Okay, so I know that we're I don't want to say we're coming close to the end, because this has been really, really beautiful. But what I wanted to do is move into like the last kind of stage of this podcast, which is where we're going to be sharing a little bit of music ourselves and talking about why we've chosen that music. And what I did was I asked you guys earlier, I think it was like last week, or maybe it wasn't, I don't know, sorry if I didn't give enough notice, but I wanted you to choose like a handful, like a bunch of songs that are not your favorite songs. They're not songs that you necessarily listen to every day. They're not on repeat or on rotation, but for some reason they've stuck with you, and that they've left like a profound sort of memory. They're anchors, so to speak. And you know, we wanted to explore those a little bit, and we're not going to spend too much time on each song, and each song is going to be available in the collection that we share in the description. So the first song which I wanted to talk about is a song by Brian Eno called "An Ending." and it's quite a popular song, I think, but it's purely instrumental, and it's like an ambience. Like Brian Eno is like the master of ambient music. He's done some beautiful pieces of music in the past, but I really, really love this one so much because for me, it's probably listening to that is one of the most spiritual experiences that I can have. Without going on a pilgrimage or, you know, going to the mosque or church or whatever it might be. Like that hearing that music is so beautiful to me. And I've written in my notes here that it feels, when you listen to this particular piece of music, it feels like you're ascending to the heavens, really. It's like very cosmic, and the sounds and the vibrations and the texture of the music that is used, it sounds like a choir of angels almost, you know. And I really love it because I think about very deeply profound things when I listen to it, and I think about things like death, but I don't think about them in a negative way. And when I hear music like that, ironically, it makes me think I'm not that scared of death, and death is actually quite a beautiful, profound thing, you know what I mean? Which is a crazy thing to feel when you're listening to music, but yeah, I really love that. And hopefully Marcus is going to be playing it in the background as well, so everyone can understand that I'm not just being really pretentious. It is gorgeous. It's a beautiful piece of music.
When you shared that with us, I honestly, there was no words. I was literally taken back. I wasn't expecting it. And the video that you shared, it was like of the earth, so moving, and oh my god, it just touched me completely. It was gorgeous.
It transcends a lot of things, that song, I think. Okay, so the next thing, I put it here, it doesn't feel like it's from this earth. It feels unworldly, otherworldly. Okay, another one which I wanted to speak about was this song called Bicycle by this guy, electronic musician called Memory Tapes. He's done some amazing albums. He experiments quite a lot with music. And the reason why I love this song is really like 3.5 minutes into the song, there's a long sort of build up with vocals and like a steady kind of beat and a rhythm. It kind of sounds like your average sort of experimental indie song, but like 3 minutes 20 in, everything like stops, and then it bursts into this beautiful chorus of like, it's like a choir, I think it's like choir noises, and then there's these like really gorgeous jangly New Order style guitars that are playing this unbelievable melody, like such a beautiful melody. And the reason why I love it is, for some reason, it reminds me that there's so much to look forward to. It doesn't necessarily have a particular like time or place associated with it, but I know that if I'm ever feeling like I'm lacking a little bit of purpose or something, when I listen to that piece of music, that little bit towards the end, that end guitar solo, it just hits me, and it makes me feel, do you know what, really optimistic about things, and that there's so much to look forward to. Okay, the other one is a song by Moby, who has not released that great music in the past. He had a really good run in like the early 2000s and the late 90s. But it's a song called God Moving Over the Face of the Waters. And it's like a piano track with some synth. And the name, first of all, is really beautiful. And I can't think of a song where the song matches the name of the song as well as this, because it feels godly, like it feels like such a powerful piece of music. The way that he layers on different instruments and different melodies on top of each other. I keep checking my notes, I know. On this one, I've just put the reason why I love this one, and then it's just blank. I just thought
it speaks for itself.
Yeah, I thought I'd freestyle, but it's very, very beautiful. It's extremely moving. And then the last piece of music which I chose was one called Feel It All Around by a guy called Washed Out, his stage name. And I love this because this is one of those tracks that takes me back to a time when life was so much more simple. When I listen to it, I feel not like a kid, but like when that really nice slice of time where you're in between education, whether it's going from high school to college or from college to university or whatever it might be, when you don't have to worry about the adult things and you're ready to start like a new beginning, and there's not, the consequences if you mess up are not that much, you know what I mean? Not like nowadays. It takes me back to that time, and it fills me with hope, and I hope that people who listen to it kind of feel the same way about it as well. It's quite repetitive. It's a real vibe though. Yeah, it's gorgeous. Okay, so I'd love to hear from you guys.
I just want to say I'm so excited to hear your songs.
They're really good. Yeah.
Okay, well, it was really hard for me to choose some songs that really mean something to me. And I think I've gone not so much for songs which make me feel a certain way because of the song itself, songs that are attached to a time for me. So the first one being what I mentioned at the start, the delays. That song's called Wanderlust, and it's like, it starts off with, you've got the picture at you, you're driving down like the Welsh countrysides, and then all of a sudden you kind of go over the peak, and then it's just the sea and beach, and it's just so nice, and like, oh, it's amazing. And like, it's like steel drums, and then like an ethereal voice.
I love how you've put that imagery into it.
Yeah, because that's what I literally listen to it and I see that, and you can hear this voice come in, and then it just becomes like the guitar. It's just beautiful. You've got to listen to it. It's amazing. And then another song that I absolutely love to bits is Sound and Colour by Alabama Shakes. I put this in Music Club once, so we all listened to it. But anyone listening to this,
fantastic recommendation.
Yeah, you need to go and listen to it. It's amazing. I think that song's beautiful because it just reminds me of it being like nighttime, and it just, I can see how I feel relaxed when I listen to it. I don't know, it's really, really hard to describe, but it's just such a calming, beautiful, beautiful song. And
it's like it sounds like a very mercurial feeling that you're describing.
Yeah.
That would say what you said just again. Like, what was that? You feel like
I can see.
You can see how you're relaxed.
It's really complex, but I can't really describe how I feel when I listen to it. It instantly soothes me, and I've known it for years and years and years, and I always come back to it, and I'm never bored of it. I've probably played it like 600 times, and I'm still not sick of it. So I just love it to bits. And then I do have like many options for my third choice. So I'm gonna pick Someday We'll Be Together by Diana Ross and the Supremes, because I have been, on my musical journey, as I've mentioned, finding old music, and I can't for the life of me remember where I found that one. Probably in some TV show somewhere. But I've just got this extreme love for both Diana Ross and the Supremes, and when they do stuff together, amazing. And it's just such a lovely song because you can reminisce when you listen to it, but like you were saying, not about anything in particular. It's you reminisce someone else's life and this kind of era.
It's a moment, like you're reminiscing about a moment that never happened. But it's a beautiful moment,
And it's also a song which kind of like, it's positive, but it also has like raw emotion in it. It's not necessarily sad, but the lyrics are kind of melancholy. I think melancholy is the way to describe it.
That's beautiful.
I can't wait to listen to them.
They're gorgeous.
What about you, Al?
I had 3. One of them being River Flows in You. That's the one I just love.
Wait, is this the one from Lost?
No.
Okay,
no.
sorry, spoiler.
No, River Flows in You, and I just think it's gorgeous. I don't know how to describe it. I just find it so calming and so beautiful, and every time I listen to it again, you get that kind of shiver down your spine kind of feeling. And it's just something that if I'm studying or focusing on something or really need to concentrate, or even if I'm falling to sleep, I'll put that on. That's always like the first song I'll add to a playlist for that kind of reason. For like focusing or whatever, because it is just so beautiful, and there's just something about it that just speaks to me, and I really can't explain it, but I absolutely love it.
That was the piano one, right?
Yeah, the piano one.
Yeah, that was beautiful.
Really, really nice. The second one, Life and Death, which is from Lost. I've never seen Lost, but I love that piece of music. And I actually found that because when I was in high school, I discovered this website. I think it was called The Thought Room. And it was meant to be a place that you would go to and you would just sit and just do nothing for 2 minutes. So it was kind of like when you're kind of first getting into social media and you're doing a lot of research online, you're studying for your GCSEs or whatever exams. And I remember needing to just take some time out, and every time I wanted to do that, I had like a notification come through, or I remembered I needed to be studying for something else. And I just so happened to find this, and this was the music that was playing in the background, and it just spoke to me, and I had to find out what that piece of music was, because it didn't say it on the site. But yeah, it is, whenever I just need to take a minute to just breathe, that's what I'll put on, because it just,
it's like your little escape pod.
Yeah, definitely. It's just gorgeous. When I sent it to you, like, oh my god.
Because I've not heard that, and I like, I'm sure most people, you're an exception, most people watched Lost when it was big. It was very disappointing in the end, but the initial few seasons were very beautiful and very interesting and exciting. But yeah, that music like is the first time that I've heard it literally in like a decade maybe. So it was really lovely to hear it.
It's just gorgeous.
Yeah.
And the third one is it's called The Car Theme, and it's from the original soundtrack of This Is Us, which is one of my favourite TV programmes ever. And that was just playing in the background of one of the scenes that I think was quite emotional and quite powerful. And that paired with the scene, or the music paired with the scene, was just next level. I was sobbing. I cry every episode of This Is Us, but I was really, really crying. And that again, it's just a gorgeous soundtrack or piece of music that I just love, and it is an anchor in that I know I can always go back to it, and whether I'm feeling upset or happy or whatever, if I just need to listen to something but I don't want lyrics and music and songs,
you just want to feel something without,
and I want to feel something, that's what I'll go to.
And
it makes me think of the whole of This Is Us and kind of what it means, and it's kind of just about a family. And it's very like normal. It just reminds me of my family, if you like, and I think that's why I like it so much, because it has those memories that maybe don't exist or kind of off the back of that show, but it just takes me to a time or a place that sometimes I just need to go to. That
was beautiful and very, very poetic, and I think I can totally like vibe with that. Like I get what you mean. And about the TV show as well, there's something nice and comforting in the mundane. Doesn't have to be all bells and whistles to
exactly.
But going back to what we were saying earlier, like this is just a point that I thought about mid-conversation, but I've only just remembered now. But back when it comes to listening to music and watching things which are familiar to us, it's very, very comforting. Like when I over Christmas, when I was sick with COVID, I was really depressed. Like it was a very, very down time for me, because it was like a bleak winter, like last year. And obviously being isolated from my family and work and everything, it was tough for, I think everybody who's had COVID to some degree felt the same thing. There's a little bit of depression that comes with it. And what I wanted to do was watch things that I've already seen and listen to music that I've already listened to. I just wanted things to ground me, and I wasn't interested in new stimuli. I just wanted things which I knew the ending to, or I knew what was going to happen next, but I've not seen it in a while. So I think music's a really good way of doing that as well, grounding you. And again, it's like, keep using the word anchor. But no, we've come to the close, unfortunately. I know it's been a really honestly, it's been a really beautiful and profound episode for me. And I think that kind of talking about music in a way that isn't just, what's your favorite track and what music you're listening to, I think is important, because if people take the time to explore and discover new music, if they take the time to really appreciate and think about the music that they love and understand why they love it and know about themselves a little bit more and learn about themselves as to why they love that, I think it's a really healthy thing to do. So we want to keep this conversation alive, obviously, and in a podcast like this, the comment section needs to be full. Like we need to hear what what people think about the things that we're speaking about, and suggest and share other music that they feel is profound. I think that we'll definitely We'll come back to the subject maybe in a few months' time, and think about other elements of music or art or anything that we can, that we know draws a deep emotion from us, from within. But it's been really, really beautiful speaking with you guys, and I appreciate it so much.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much, Misbah. It's been a lovely conversation.
The pleasure's been all mine, trust me. If anybody wants to check out the music that we've shared and information about the podcast and upcoming podcasts, just check us out on wakelet.com/@the Wakelet podcast. And obviously you can search for the Wakelet podcast on YouTube, on podcasts. Is it on Spotify yet or not? On Spotify as well. On most. What do people usually say to sign off? On most platforms.
On all
streaming platforms, you can find it.
All major streaming platforms.
On all major streaming platforms, that's it. You know what you're doing. And please, if you are listening to this on Spotify or not on YouTube, then if you have any comments that you want to make about it, then just at us. Just send us a message on Twitter or a tweet at Wakelet. This has been amazing. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you so much.
And we're going to have a big group hug after this.
Yeah.
And maybe a little cry.
Yeah. Maybe a little, just a single tear. Yeah, I'm just going to squeeze one out. No, thank you so much. Love you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.